The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station where the greatest minds of the galaxy gathered. Today, silence filled the room like a poison. Archon Veltha stood at the center platform, his forearms trembling slightly as he projected the hologram above them all. Red markers spread across the galactic map like a disease. Each marker represented a dead star system. 47 billion souls, Veltha said, his voice barely a whisper. Gone in 6 months. The representatives from 100 species watched in horror. The Shakari delegate, a crystalline being that communicated through light patterns, flickered desperately. Her entire civilization had vanished 3 days ago. The distress signal had cut off mid-transmission, and when the rescue fleet arrived, they found nothing. Not wreckage, not bodies, just empty space where 15 worlds had once orbited their sun. Commander Zethron slammed his clawed fist on the console. We sent our best weapons. Quantum bombs that can crack planets. Stellar converters that can weaponize stars themselves. Nothing works. Not nothing, corrected Dr. Miraseth, the head science advisor. She was a Drelathi like the Archon, with pale blue skin and wise ancient eyes. The weapons slow them down. For a few hours. Then the Voidborn adapt and continue their advance. The Voidborn. The name itself made hardened warriors flinch. They had appeared 6 months ago, pouring through dimensional rifts like a flood of liquid shadow. They consumed everything, matter, energy, light itself. Planets didn't explode when the Voidborn touched them. They simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they had never been. Show them, Velthus commanded quietly. The hologram changed. Footage from a military observation drone played in the center of the room. The Voidborn appeared as a wall of absolute darkness, but darkness wasn't quite right. It was more like an absence, a hole in reality itself. Where it touched the edges of a planet's atmosphere, the air didn't burn or freeze. It simply stopped being. The planet's surface peeled away like old paint, dissolving into nothing. A warship fired its main cannon, a weapon that could vaporize a moon. The beam struck the Voidborn and vanished without effect, swallowed by the void. Then the darkness reached the ship. For 3 seconds the crew screamed, then they were gone, erased from existence. Several delegates left the chamber. Others wept openly. Our scientists have calculated the progression, Dr. Miraseth continued, her voice steady despite the horror. At current rates, the Voidborn will consume the entire galaxy in 18 months. Every world, every species, everything we have built in 10,000 years of civilization will be erased. Then we evacuate, someone shouted. We build generation ships and flee to another galaxy. Flee where? Miraseth asked. The Voidborn don't travel through normal space. They move through dimensions. They can follow us anywhere. There is nowhere to run. The chamber descended into chaos. Delegates argued, shouted, and prayed to their various gods. Some called for last-ditch military strikes. Others suggested surrender, though no one knew if the Voidborn could even be communicated with. They seemed less like invaders and more like a natural disaster given form, a universal entropy come to claim its due. Ambassador Kira Velthus watched the panic from her seat in the lower galleries. She was young by Drelathi standards, only 70 years old, with the dark blue skin that marked her as one of the explorer caste. While others had studied warfare and politics, Kira had spent her life studying other species, particularly one species that most of the council preferred to forget. She stood up and activated her communication badge. Honored Archon, I request permission to speak. Her uncle looked at her with tired eyes. Kira, now is not the time for... There is one military power we haven't consulted, she interrupted, her voice cutting through the noise. The chamber quieted. One species whose expertise is unconventional warfare. Commander Zethron's scales bristled with anger. Absolutely not. The humans are barbarians, warlike primitives who survived on a death world for 300,000 years, Kira said firmly, who fought wars with nuclear weapons before they even left their planet, who were rejected from this council 50 years ago because we deemed them too aggressive for civilized space. Because they are. Zethron roared. They solve every problem with violence. They have no honor, no, they have survived, Kira interrupted again. Every species in this room evolved on paradise worlds compared to Earth. Stable climates, abundant resources, gentle predators. Humans evolved in a crucible. Their planet tried to kill them with ice ages, supervolcanoes, diseases, and predators that hunted them for food. And they didn't just survive, they conquered their entire world. So what? Another delegate challenged. That makes them good at killing. The Voidborn cannot be killed. Kira took a breath. Humanity was rejected because their first response to every problem is to fight. What if that's exactly what we need? What if the reason all our weapons fail is because we're too civilized? We wage war with rules and logic. Humans wage war with desperation and creativity. They don't fight fair. They fight to win. The chamber erupted again. Half the delegates were outraged at the suggestion. The other half were desperate enough to consider anything. Archon Veltas raised his hands for silence. When the room quieted, he looked at his niece for a long moment. And you believe the humans would even help us? After we rejected them? Insulted them? Barred them from the galactic community? Kira met his eyes. I believe their humanity, Uncle. And humanity's most defining characteristic, according to every study I've read, is spite. They excel at proving people wrong. The vote was close. Many delegates refused to even consider it. But when Dr. Miraseth quietly added that the humans had been monitoring galactic communications, meaning they likely already knew about the Voidborn, the Council agreed. 3 days later, Ambassador Kira Velthas's ship entered the Sol system. What she found shocked her to her core. Earth's solar system bristled with weapons. Defensive platforms orbited every inhabited moon and planet. Warships patrolled in formations that suggested military precision. The asteroid belt had been converted into a massive fortress network. As her ship approached Earth, a communication came through. A human voice, calm and professional. Ambassador Velthas, this is Earth Defense Command. We've been expecting you. General Chen will meet you in Geneva. He says to tell you that humanity accepts your surrender. Kira's blood went cold. Our surrender? His exact words, Ambassador. He also said you'd understand when you arrived. Welcome to Earth. Try not to look too surprised. We've been busy since you decided we weren't good enough for your club. The communication cut off. Below her, Earth gleamed like a jewel. But now Kira could see what she'd missed at first glance. The jewel had teeth and they were pointed at the stars. The United Nations headquarters in Geneva looked different from what Kira remembered in the historical records. 50 years ago, it had been a simple complex of buildings. Now it was a fortress. Anti-aircraft batteries disguised as sculptures dotted the grounds. The gardens held bunkers. Even the peaceful lake surrounding the complex had defensive platforms hidden beneath its calm surface. Kira walked through corridors filled with human soldiers. They moved with an efficiency that made her uncomfortable. Every movement had purpose. No wasted energy. These weren't peacekeepers, these were warriors who had turned preparation into an art form. General Marcus Chen waited in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Alps. He was a tall human with gray hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. Next to him sat a woman with rich brown skin and brilliant silver hair tied back in a practical bun. She wore a white lab coat covered in mathematical equations written in marker. Ambassador Velthas, General Chen said, not standing. 50 years ago, your council told us we were too violent, too aggressive, and too dangerous to join galactic civilization. Now you're here. I assume it's not to apologize. Kira's training in diplomacy took over. General Chen, I am here to... The Voidborn, interrupted the woman in the lab coat. She had a slight accent that Kira's translator identified as Nigerian. Extra-dimensional entities. First appeared 6 months ago. 47 billion dead across 12 star systems. Conventional weapons ineffective. You've got maybe 18 months before they consume the galaxy. You've tried everything and nothing works. How am I doing so far? Kira stared. How do you... We've been monitoring your communications since you kicked us out, Chen said flatly. Did you think we'd just accept your judgment and go home? We've been watching the galactic community for 50 years, learning your languages, studying your technology, preparing. Preparing for what? The woman smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. For everything, Ambassador. I'm Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, by the way, Chief of Theoretical Weapons Development, and I've been studying your Voidborn problem for 4 months now. 4 months? Kira felt dizzy. But we only confirmed their existence 3 months ago. You confirmed it, Dr. Okonkwo corrected. We detected the dimensional anomalies earlier. See, when you live on a planet that has tried to kill you in every way possible, ice ages, plagues, meteor strikes, supervolcanoes, you develop a certain paranoia. We watch for threats, all threats everywhere. General Chen brought up a holographic display. This is why you're really here, Ambassador. Not to ask for help, to beg for it. Your council rejected us for being too warlike. Now you need warriors. Kira wanted to argue, but the truth was heavy on her shoulders. Yes, she admitted quietly. We need your help. Millions are dying every day. Soon it will be billions. Then trillions. We have nowhere else to turn. And what do we get? Chen asked. We help you save the galaxy, and then what? You thank us politely and send us back to our corner of space? Full council membership, Kira said immediately. Unrestricted access to all galactic technology. Trading rights. Cultural exchange. Everything we denied you before. Not enough, Dr. Okonkwo said. We want complete tactical command. If we're going to fight your war, we fight it our way. No committees. No council oversight. You give us the resources and you let us work. Kira felt her heart skip. The council will never agree to. Then the council can die, Chen said coldly. We've survived 50 years alone. We'll survive after you're gone too. But humanity doesn't abandon people in need, even people who wronged us. So here's what's going to happen, Ambassador. You're going to take our terms back to your council. They're going to argue and debate and waste time you don't have. Eventually they'll agree because we're the only option left. He leaned forward. But let me be clear about something. We're not doing this for gratitude or membership or technology. We're doing this because the Voidborn are a threat to Earth, and humanity has a simple rule. Anything that threatens humanity gets destroyed. The fact that saving you saves us is just convenient. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up another display. I need to show you something, Ambassador. The Council thinks the Voidborn can't be hurt. That's wrong. They can be hurt. You've just been fighting them wrong. The display showed complex equations that made Kira's head spin. The Voidborn exist partially outside normal space-time. Your weapons operate entirely within normal physics. It's like trying to punch a ghost. Your fist passes through because you're not fighting on the same dimensional plane. So it's impossible, Kira whispered. No, Dr. Okonkwo said firmly. It's difficult. Humans don't recognize the difference. Impossible is just a problem we haven't solved yet. She pulled up schematics. These are existence anchors. They don't attack the Voidborn directly. Instead, they reinforce reality itself within a specific area. They make real space more real, if that makes sense. Dense enough that the Voidborn can't phase through it. Plant these around a planet and the Voidborn can't touch it. Kira studied the designs. They were crude compared to galactic technology, but there was something elegant about them. This could work? It works, Dr. Okonkwo corrected. We tested it last month on a small dimensional rift in the Kuiper Belt. The Voidborn couldn't pass through. Last month? Kira felt cold. You've had rifts here? Near Earth? General Chen nodded. 3 of them. Small ones. We collapsed 2. The third, we kept open for study. We've been experimenting. You've been experimenting with the force that's destroying the galaxy? How else do you learn to fight something? Chen asked. The Council studied the Voidborn from a distance and learned nothing useful. We caught some, took them apart, and figured out what makes them tick. That's the difference between us, Ambassador. When the Council sees a monster, they run. When humanity sees a monster, we study it until we know how to kill it. Kira's training warred with her instincts. Everything about these humans screamed danger. But they were offering hope. There's more, Dr. Okonkwo continued. The existence anchors are defensive. But we've also developed offensive weapons. They're weird. They don't work like conventional arms. They fight the Voidborn on a conceptual level. Conceptual? The Voidborn are partially thought-based entities. They exist because they believe they exist, so we developed weapons that attack their belief. Mimetic missiles that infect their hive mind with the concept of self-preservation, making them flee. Probability mines that convince them they never existed in the first place. Spite drives? Kira interrupted. Dr. Okonkwo grinned. Humanity's secret weapon, Ambassador. We convert human stubbornness into a reality-stabilizing field. Turns out that our absolute refusal to accept extinction has a measurable quantum effect. We're literally too spiteful to die, and now we've weaponized it. Kira didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You've weaponized spite. Spite, hope, determination, whatever you want to call it, General Chen said. The universe has been trying to kill humanity since we climbed down from the trees. We've gotten very good at telling it no. He stood up and walked to the window. We have 50 warships ready, 200,000 volunteers, Dr. Okonkwo's existence anchors, and a whole arsenal of weapons that probably violate every galactic convention on warfare. We're ready to deploy within 48 hours. The Council will want oversight, Kira warned. The Council will take what we offer or die proud, Chen replied. Those are the terms. Take them or leave them. Kira looked at these strange, violent, brilliant humans. They were everything the Council had feared. Aggressive, unpredictable, dangerous. And they were exactly what the galaxy needed. I'll take your terms to the Council, she said quietly. They'll accept, Dr. Okonkwo said confidently, because we've already identified the next system the Voidborn will hit. The Threshold System. Strategic choke point between the Free Galaxy and Voidborn territory. Every species has tried to defend it. Every species has failed, she smiled. We won't. 3 days later, Kira stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the human fleet assemble. 50 warships painted with Earth's blue and green colors. They weren't the largest ships. They weren't the most advanced, but they moved with purpose and precision that spoke of endless drilling and preparation. Commander Zethron's transmission came through on the Council channel. His voice dripped with contempt. The humans think they can hold the Threshold System? Fine, let them try. When they fail like everyone else, maybe the Council will stop listening to foolish ambassadors who think barbarians can save us. Kira watched the human fleet jump to faster-than-light speed, disappearing toward the front lines. They won't fail, she whispered to herself. She believed it. She had seen something in General Chen's eyes, in Dr. Okonkwo's fierce smile. Humanity didn't fight to survive. They fought because the universe told them they couldn't win, and they took that as a personal insult. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you cornered a species that had spent 300,000 years refusing to die. The Threshold System had seen better days. 3 inhabited planets orbited a yellow sun, home to 12 billion civilians who refused to evacuate. They had nowhere to go. Every system beyond this one had already fallen to the Voidborn. This was the last line of defense. Captain James Reeves stood on the bridge of the human warship Indomitable, watching the wreckage float past. 17 fleets had tried to hold this system. Parts of their ships drifted like a metal graveyard, a testament to bravery and failure. Cheerful, muttered Lieutenant Sarah Park from the weapons station. She was young, barely 25, with bright green hair that violated at least 3 military regulations. Reeves let it slide. Good soldiers earn some freedom. Contact, called out the sensor officer. Dimensional rifts opening. Multiple contacts, dozens, no, hundreds. The Voidborn came through like a tsunami of darkness. The view screen struggled to display them properly because they weren't really there in a conventional sense. They existed in the space between dimensions, only partially present in normal reality. Where they passed, stars dimmed. Space itself seemed to recoil. Ambassador Kira stood beside Reeves, her blue skin pale with fear. She had insisted on observing from a human ship. Now she looked like she regretted that choice. That's what destroyed 12 star systems? Reeves asked calmly. Yes, Kira whispered. Huh? Reeves picked up the fleet-wide communication device. All ships, this is Reeves. Deploy existence anchors around the inhabited planets. Defensive pattern Alamo. Weapons free on my mark. The 50 human warships moved with practiced precision. They scattered across the system, each ship launching small devices that expanded into shimmering fields around the 3 planets. The existence anchors activated, and space itself seemed to solidify around the worlds, becoming more real, more solid, more there. The Voidborn struck the first planet, or tried to. The darkness splashed against the anchor field like water hitting a window. The field held. The planet remained. Holy hell, it's working, Park breathed. Did you doubt Dr. Okonkwo? Reeves asked. Little bit, yeah. The Voidborn adapted. Of course they did. They always adapted. The darkness shifted, trying to slip between the quantum frequencies of the anchor fields. Given enough time, they would find a weakness. Everything had a weakness. Time to see if spite really is a weapon, Reeves said. All ships activate spite drives. Across the fleet, strange devices powered up. They didn't generate conventional energy. Instead, they tapped into something deeper, the collective determination of humanity. Every human on those ships, every person who refused to accept extinction, contributed to a field that reality itself recognized and reinforced. The Voidborn pushed against the spite drive fields and recoiled. It was the first time in recorded history that they had retreated from anything. They're falling back, Kira said in shock. They're actually falling back. Don't celebrate yet, Reeves warned. Now comes the hard part. We can defend the planets, but we need to actually hurt these things. Park, load the first wave of mimetic missiles. Loaded and ready, sir. Fire. The missiles didn't look like much. Small, sleek, almost elegant. They struck the void-born swarm and detonated not with fire or force, but with information. Each missile carried a simple concept encoded at the quantum level. Fear. The void-born had never known fear. They were apex predators, unstoppable forces of nature. But the mimetic missiles infected their hive mind with the idea that they could be harmed, that they could cease to exist, and for entities that existed partially through belief, that idea became reality. A portion of the void-born swarm simply fled, just turned and retreated back through their dimensional rifts. The rest hesitated, confused by the new sensation of self-preservation. Probability mines next wave, Reeves ordered. These weapons were even stranger. They didn't destroy the void-born. They convinced them they had never existed in the first place. Reality rippled. Quantum probabilities collapsed in specific ways, and sections of the void-born swarm simply weren't there anymore. They hadn't been destroyed. They had been retroactively prevented from arriving. Kira's translator was having trouble keeping up with the human tactical jargon flying across the communications channels, but she understood enough. The humans weren't fighting the void-born with bigger guns. They were fighting them with ideas, with concepts, with philosophical weapons that shouldn't work, but did because humans believed they would. "This is insane," she whispered. "Welcome to human warfare," Reeves replied. "We've been fighting the impossible since before we invented the wheel. You developed some creative tactics." The battle raged for hours. The void-born kept adapting, kept trying new approaches. The humans kept changing weapons, never using the same tactic twice in a row. Graviton disruptors, causality mines, entropy reversal fields, weapons with names that made no sense but worked anyway. Then Commander Zethran's ship arrived with a Galactic Council observation fleet. "Impossible!" Zethran's voice came over the communication channel. "The threshold system is holding. Told you we wouldn't fail," Kira replied. The void-born noticed the new arrivals. A massive wave of darkness split off from the main force and rushed toward the Council ships. They were traditional warships armed with quantum torpedoes and stellar converters, powerful weapons that had failed against the void-born for 6 months. "They're attacking Commander Zethran's fleet," Park reported. "Those ships don't have anchor protection," Reeves cursed. "All ships intercept pattern Delta. We're not letting them die even if their commander is an idiot." The human fleet moved, placing themselves between the void-born and the Council ships. The spite drives strained, extending their protection to cover the alien vessels. On the Indomitable, alarms screamed as the systems overloaded. "We can't maintain this," Park warned. "The spite drive is burning out." "Then we hold until it burns," Reeves replied calmly. A void-born tentacle of pure nothing broke through the field. It touched the Indomitable's hull, and metal simply ceased to exist. Atmosphere vented. Emergency bulkheads slammed down. 3 crew members vanished, erased from reality so completely that Kira couldn't even remember their names a second later. "All hands, evacuate to escape pods," Reeves ordered. Park set the spite drive to overload. "We're going to make this count." "Sir, that will destroy the ship." "I'm aware. Everyone off except essential personnel. Move." The crew evacuated with practiced efficiency. Within 2 minutes, only Reeves and a skeleton crew remained. Kira refused to leave, though she didn't know why. Maybe she needed to witness this. Maybe she owed it to them. Reeves piloted the dying ship directly into the largest concentration of void-born. The spite drive, pushed beyond all safety limits, burned with impossible brightness. It was a middle finger to the universe itself, a refusal to die quietly. "For Earth," Reeves said quietly, and detonated the drive. The explosion wasn't physical. It was conceptual. The drive released all the accumulated human determination, all the collective refusal to accept extinction, in one massive burst. Reality solidified for 3 light seconds in all directions. The void-born caught in the blast couldn't phase out of normal space. They became solid, real, mortal, and the human fleet destroyed them with conventional weapons. When the light faded, a quarter of the void-born force was gone. The rest retreated through their dimensional rifts, fleeing for the first time in their existence. The threshold system stood, battered, bleeding, but standing. Rescue ships picked up the escape pods. Reeves had survived. pulled from his pod with a broken arm and a grin on his face. Commander Zethron's flagship limped into dock with the human vessels. The commander boarded the Indomitable's wreckage personally. He found Reeves in the medical bay, getting his arm set by a medic who was simultaneously drinking coffee and humming an off-key tune. "You saved my life," Zethron said quietly. "After I called you barbarians. After I said you would fail." "Yeah," Reeves replied. "We're funny that way. Someone needs help, we help, even if they're idiots." Zethron stood silent for a moment. Then he performed the Kalish salute, a gesture of ultimate respect given only to the greatest warriors. "I was wrong about humanity. Forgive me. Buy me a drink when this is over and we're even." In her quarters, Ambassador Kira composed her report to the council. Her hand shook as she wrote. She had watched humans face extinction itself and laugh. She had seen them turn stubbornness into a weapon. She had witnessed them save people who had scorned them without hesitation. The galaxy had called humans too violent for civilization. Kira now understood the truth. Humans weren't too violent. They were survivors who had turned survival into an art form. And they were exactly what the galaxy needed. Her terminal beeped. A priority message from Dr. Okonkwo on Earth. Kira opened it and went cold. The message was simple. "We need to talk immediately. I've discovered something about the Voidborn. Something that changes everything. They're not invading. They're running." Below the message was a data file. Kira opened it with trembling hands and read the analysis. Then she read it again, hoping she had misunderstood. The Voidborn weren't the threat. They were refugees fleeing from something worse. And that something worse was coming. The Deep Space Research Station orbited a captured Voidborn specimen in a containment field that blazed with the light of 3 existence anchors working in concert. Dr. Sarah, Okonkwo hadn't slept in 36 hours, surviving on coffee and the kind of manic energy that came from discovering something that changed everything. Ambassador Kira arrived with General Chen and Captain Reeves, who still had his arm in a cast from the threshold battle. The victory celebration across the galaxy had lasted 3 days. Humanity had proven the Voidborn could be stopped. Hope had returned. Now that hope was about to die. "Tell me I'm wrong," Kira said as soon as she entered the lab. "Please tell me I misunderstood your data." Dr. Okonkwo pulled up holographic displays showing the captured Voidborn. It looked like a piece of living darkness writhing against the containment field. "I wish I could. But the mathematics don't lie." "Explain it to us like we're not quantum physicists," General Chen said. "The Voidborn communicate through quantum entanglement patterns," Dr. Okonkwo began. "We've been studying those patterns for weeks, trying to understand how they coordinate across vast distances. What we discovered is that they're not coordinating. They're screaming." She manipulated the display, showing wave patterns that looked almost like sound frequencies. "These are distress calls, panic, fear. The Voidborn aren't invading our dimension, they're fleeing into it. Their home dimension is collapsing, and they're refugees looking for anywhere else to exist." "So the things destroying the galaxy are running away?" Reeves asked. "From what?" Dr. Okonkwo's expression was grim. "We call it the Unmaker. The Voidborn don't have a better name for it. It's not a creature or an entity. It's a fundamental force, the heat-death of the universe given form. It erases the laws of physics themselves. Where the Voidborn consume matter and energy, the Unmaker erases the concepts of matter and energy. It makes existence itself impossible." The room was silent except for the hum of the containment field. "Their entire dimension is dying," Dr. Okonkwo continued. "Stars aren't burning out. The Unmaker is removing the concept of fusion. Gravity isn't weakening, it's being deleted from physics. Time is breaking down. Cause and effect are separating. The Voidborn watched their universe die piece by piece, and they did the only thing they could. They found a crack to another universe and fled through it." "Our universe," Kira whispered. "Yes, and now the dimensional rifts are stable. Which means the Unmaker can follow them," General Chen finished. "How long?" 3 weeks. Maybe less. The rifts are expanding. When the Unmaker realizes there's another universe on the other side, it will come through, and it will do to our reality what it did to theirs." Kira sat down heavily. "Then we've already lost. If the Unmaker destroyed an entire universe, what chance do we have?" "About the same chance we had against the Voidborn," Reeves said quietly. "None, but we fought anyway." Dr. Okonkwo smiled slightly. "That's what I'm counting on. Because I have an idea. It's insane, probably impossible, and definitely suicidal. But it's the only option I can see. She pulled up new schematics. The Voidborn came through specific dimensional rifts, weak points where their universe touches ours. The Unmaker will follow the same path. If we can seal those rifts permanently, we trap the Unmaker in the dead universe and save ours. Can the existence anchors do that? Kira asked. A big enough one could. I'm talking about an anchor the size of a moon, powered by the cores of 3 human carriers. We'd plant it at the main rift point in the Voidborn home dimension, activate it, and seal both universes off from each other permanently. General Chen saw the problem immediately. Someone would have to stay behind to activate it. Not someone. A whole strike force. The Voidborn dimension is collapsing. Physics doesn't work right there anymore. We'd need ships to navigate, engineers to plant the anchor, scientists to calibrate it, and soldiers to defend the operation while the Unmaker converges on our position, and none of them would be coming back. The silence stretched. Kira felt sick. You're asking for volunteers to die. I'm asking for volunteers to save 2 universes, Dr. Okonkwo corrected. The Unmaker won't stop with us. It will find other dimensions, other universes. This is bigger than the galaxy. This is the end of everything unless someone makes a stand. How many people would you need? Reeves asked. 30 ships minimum, 5,000 crew. It's a suicide mission, Captain. I won't pretend otherwise. Reeves stood up. I'm in. Captain, you don't have to. I'm in, he repeated firmly. Any other humans you ask will be too. We held the threshold system. We can hold a dimensional rift. That's what we do. We hold the line when everyone else says it's impossible. The news spread across the fleet within hours. Dr. Okonkwo had expected to struggle to find volunteers. She had prepared speeches about duty and sacrifice. She never gave them. Every human military ship volunteered. All 50 of them. Then the civilian ships volunteered. Then human researchers, engineers, and scientists who had never held a gun signed up for combat training. You're all insane, Commander Zethron said when he heard. But this time it sounded like a compliment. Then something unexpected happened. Alien species started volunteering too. The Drelathi sent 3 warships. The Kalish sent 5. Even the pacifist Moran species, who had never fielded a military, sent a ship filled with engineers who politely but firmly insisted they were going. Why? Dr. Okonkwo asked a Miran volunteer. Your species doesn't believe in violence. We don't, the Moran agreed, their translucent skin shimmering. But we believe in humanity's example. You taught the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for, that giving up isn't the only option, that spite and hope can change reality itself. How could we not follow that example? The strike force assembled over 3 days. 50 human ships, 20 alien ships, 7,000 volunteers who knew they weren't coming home. Captain Reeves commanded the operation from his new ship, the Defiance. Ambassador Kira insisted on going, despite protests from her uncle. Commander Zethron shocked everyone by volunteering as well. Someone needs to make sure you humans don't do anything stupid, he grumbled. But there was respect in his voice now, and something that might have been friendship. Dr. Okonkwo came too. I designed the damn anchor. I'm not sending anyone to activate it without me. The night before departure, Kira found herself in the Defiance's observation deck, staring at Earth. The planet glowed blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere down there, 8 billion humans went about their lives not knowing that 7,000 of their people were about to die to save them. General Chen joined her. He would be staying behind to coordinate the defense of the galaxy if the plan failed. Do you think we can do this? Kira asked quietly. Honestly? No, the numbers don't favor us. The Unmaker destroyed an entire universe. We're trying to stop it with 70 ships and a weapon we've never tested at this scale. Then why try? Chen smiled. Because impossible and difficult are the same word in human languages. We stopped recognizing the difference about 300,000 years ago. The universe has been telling humanity we shouldn't exist since we climbed down from the trees. We've been proving it wrong ever since. He looked at Earth with obvious love. Down there we have a saying. Humanity fuck yeah. It's crude and simple, but it captures something important. When the universe says we can't, we say watch us. When death comes calling, we laugh in its face. When the impossible stands before us, we punch it in the throat and take its lunch money. You're all completely insane, Kira said. Yeah, Chen agreed. But we're your kind of insane now. The galaxy learned to hope again by watching us be too stupid to despair. So we'll go into a dying universe, face the end of all things, and we'll give it hell until the very last second, because that's what humanity does. The strike force departed at dawn, 70 ships jumping into the unknown. The Voidborn, in a strange twist, provided navigation data. They would guide humanity to their dying world. Former enemies united against a common threat. As the ships entered the dimensional rift, reality twisted around them. Colors inverted. Time ran backward, then forward, then sideways. The laws of physics became suggestions rather than rules. Through the viewport, Kira saw the Voidborn dimension for the first time. Stars flickered like dying bulbs. Planets orbited in impossible geometries. In the distance, a wall of absolute nothing advanced slowly across the dying universe, erasing everything it touched. The Unmaker had arrived, and it was impossibly vast. Well, Captain Reeves said with forced cheerfulness, this is going to be interesting. Behind them, the rift they had come through shimmered. Ahead, the death of reality approached. They had 48 hours to plant the anchor and seal both dimensions forever. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up the calculations one last time. The math was clear. Success was possible. Survival was not. Let's get to work, she said. The impossible mission had begun. The Voidborn dimension was dying in ways that shouldn't be possible. Captain Reeves watched through the viewport as a star aged backward, going from red giant to yellow dwarf to newborn brilliance before exploding into nothingness. Gravity reversed randomly, pulling ships in wrong directions. Time looped. Reeves watched the same asteroid drift past 3 times before it finally disappeared. This is what entropy looks like when it gets angry, Dr. Okonkwo muttered, checking her instruments. The numbers kept changing because the fundamental constants of physics were breaking down. Light speed varied. Planck's constant shifted. Even basic arithmetic seemed uncertain here. The strike force of 70 ships moved through the chaos, guided by Voidborn navigators who pulsed directions through quantum entanglement. They had reached an accord, humanity and the Voidborn, former enemies united by the simple fact that the Unmaker wanted them all dead. In the distance, visible even across light years, the Unmaker advanced. It wasn't darkness like the Voidborn. It was worse, it was nothing. A hole in existence itself that grew larger with every moment. Where it passed, space-time didn't tear. It ceased to have ever existed. Stars vanished not into nova but into retroactive non-existence, erased so completely that the universe forgot they had ever burned. How long until we reach the primary rift point? Commander Zethron asked. His ship, the Honor's Price, flew in formation with the Defiance. 6 hours if physics stays stable, answered Lieutenant Park from the Defiance's helm. But physics is only stable for about 5 minutes at a time, so realistically, no clue. Human optimism at its finest, Zethran said. But there was warmth in his voice now. The fleet approached what the Voidborn called the first wound, the original rift between dimensions. It manifested as a tear in reality large enough to swallow a solar system, bleeding light and matter between universes. This was where the existence anchor needed to be planted. Dr. Okonkwo's team began assembly. The anchor was too large for any one ship to carry, so it had been distributed across 10 vessels. Now they had to construct it in the middle of a dying universe while physics betrayed them. Anchor Component 1 released, called the Chief Engineer. A piece of the device floated free, held in place by magnetic fields that flickered as electromagnetism temporarily ceased to exist, before reasserting itself. Ambassador Kira worked alongside human engineers. Her diplomatic training useless here. She welded metal plates with hands that shook. Around her, humans and aliens worked with desperate efficiency. A Moran engineer calculated quantum harmonics while a human soldier held the tools. A Drillathi physicist shouted equations while a human mechanic turned them into reality. The Unmaker noticed them. Of course it did. They were concentrations of existence in a place where existence was ending. The nothing began to converge on their position, moving faster now as if hungry. Contact in 37 hours, the sensor officer reported. Sir, that thing is accelerating. It knows we're here. Then we work faster, Captain Reeves said calmly. All ships, defensive perimeter. Let's buy our engineers some time. The warships spread out, forming a sphere around the construction site. They had weapons designed to hurt the Voidborn, but the Unmaker was different. It didn't consume matter like the Voidborn. It erased the possibility of matter. How did you fight that? We're about to find out, Park said, reading his thoughts. The Unmaker's edge reached the outer perimeter. The human ship Relentless was the first to engage. It fired a mimetic missile, a weapon that attacked belief and concept. The missile struck the nothing and simply stopped existing, erased from causality so thoroughly that the crew forgot they had fired it. Mimetic weapons ineffective, Reeves reported. Try the spite drives. The Relentless activated its spite drive, projecting human stubbornness into reality. The field met the Unmaker and held for 3 seconds. Then physics forgot what stubbornness meant and the field collapsed. The Unmaker touched the Relentless. The ship didn't explode. It didn't crumble. Kira watched in horror as it simply ceased. The crew didn't die. Death implied they had once lived. Instead, they were retroactively erased. Kira tried to remember the ship's captain and couldn't. The universe had forgotten the ship existed. Existence anchors, Dr. Okonkwo called out. Deploy local anchors around each ship. Make reality solid enough that the Unmaker can't erase it easily. The ships activated smaller existence anchors, creating bubbles of stable reality around themselves. The Unmaker pushed against these bubbles and recoiled slightly. The fields held, but barely. How long can we maintain this? Zethran asked. Long enough, Reeves said. He didn't sound convinced, but he said it anyway. Hope was a weapon too in its way. Hours passed. The construction continued. Piece by piece, the massive existence anchor took shape. It looked like a geometric flower made of crystallized physics. Each petal a concentrated statement that reality existed and would continue to exist despite what the Unmaker preferred. Ships rotated on the perimeter, taking turns at the front line. When a ship's existence anchor began to fail, it pulled back and another took its position. They were buying time with their lives, minutes purchased with ships and crews. The Kalish cruiser Valor's Edge held the line for 43 minutes before its anchor failed. The ship's captain, a warrior named Krendeth, transmitted a final message. For the galaxy. For hope. For humanity's example. Then the Unmaker took them. Kira found herself crying. She couldn't remember Krendeth's face anymore. The universe had forgotten them. But she remembered that someone had died bravely. And that felt important even if she couldn't remember who. Anchor construction at 80%, Dr. Okonkwo reported. 4 hours to completion. The Unmaker will be here in 2 hours, the sensor officer said. The mathematics were simple and brutal. They wouldn't finish in time. Captain Reeves looked at his crew. Park at the helm, her green hair pulled back in a ponytail. The weapons officer who hummed constantly while she worked. The engineer who told terrible jokes during combat. His people. His responsibility. All ships, this is Reeves. We need to buy 4 more hours. I know the math says we can't. I know every tactical analysis says it's impossible. I know the Unmaker has already won in every universe it's encountered. He paused, then smiled. But we're humanity. And humanity's specialty is doing impossible things out of sheer spite. So we're going to hold this line. We're going to make time our bitch. We're going to prove that hope and stubbornness can bend physics itself. Because that's what we do. Hell yeah, someone shouted. Then the whole fleet was shouting it. A battle cry that made no sense but meant everything. Humanity, fuck yeah. Even the alien crews joined in. Their translators struggling with the profanity but capturing the spirit. The Unmaker arrived like a wave of absolute nothing. The defensive perimeter held for 5 minutes. Then 10, then 20. Ships sacrificed themselves to buy seconds. The Moran engineering vessel stayed until the last possible moment, transmitting construction data until the Unmaker erased them from having ever existed. Commander Zethran's ship moved to the front line. Ambassador, he transmitted to Kira, tell my people that I died well. Tell them the humans taught me what courage really means. You're not going to die, Kira protested. Of course I am. We all are. But we're going to die making a difference. I can't think of a better end. The Honors Price held the line for an hour, its crew rotating on weapons and shields with mechanical precision. When the existence anchor finally failed, Zethran sent his crew to escape pods and piloted the ship himself, ramming it into the Unmaker's edge at full speed. The explosion bought 90 seconds. 90 seconds that let Dr. Okonkwo connect the final circuit. Anchor complete, she shouted. Beginning power-up sequence. 30 minutes to full activation. We don't have 30 minutes, Reeves said, looking at the tactical display. 20 ships left. The Unmaker was at the perimeter. Then we make 30 minutes, Park said. She was crying, but her hands were steady on the controls. The remaining ships formed a final sphere around the anchor. They linked their existence anchors together, creating a web of reinforced reality. It wouldn't hold long, but it didn't need to. Just 30 minutes. Just 1800 seconds. Just one final impossible task. The Unmaker pressed against the field. Reality screamed. Ships began to fail, their anchors burning out one by one. Crews evacuated to other vessels, compacting the defense. 20 ships became 15, then 10, then 5. Dr. Okonkwo worked frantically at the main anchor's controls. The power-up sequence couldn't be rushed. Push it too fast, and the anchor would tear reality apart instead of sealing it. Slow and steady. 27 minutes, 28, 29, 3 ships left. The Defiance, the Drillathi vessel Eternal Vigilance, and a human frigate called the Last Word. Their combined existence anchors blazed like a miniature sun, a declaration that reality existed and would not be erased. 30 seconds to activation, Dr. Okonkwo called out. The Unmaker broke through the Last Word's defenses. The ship ceased to exist. 2 ships left. 20 seconds. The Eternal Vigilance's anchor failed. The ship's captain, a Drillathi elder named Kestran, looked at Kira through the view screen. Tell Archon Velthus that we held the line. Tell him we made the galaxy proud. Then the Unmaker took them. 1 ship left, the Defiance. Its existence anchor was at critical failure. The Unmaker pressed close enough that Kira could see her own reflection in the nothing. And then her reflection ceased to exist, erased from all timelines. 10 seconds, Dr. Okonkwo said. She looked at her crew, at the humans and aliens who had become her friends. It's been an honor. 5 seconds. Captain Reeves held Park's hand. Kira found herself holding hands with a human engineer whose name she'd never learned, but who had smiled at her during the construction. The crew of the Defiance linked together in that final moment, human and alien united. Activation, Dr. Okonkwo whispered. The anchor engaged. Reality crystallized. The rift between dimensions didn't close, it sealed like a wound being cauterized. The Unmaker reached for them and couldn't pass. Physics solidified. Existence became permanent. The dimensional barriers locked. On the other side, in the normal universe, General Chen watched the rift collapse. The Voidborn stopped coming through. The invasion was over. The galaxy was saved, but the rift was sealed from both sides. No one could pass through, ever. Did they make it? Someone asked. Chen stared at the collapsed rift for a long moment. No, but they succeeded. They saved us all. In the dying universe, the Defiance drifted in stable space. The existence anchor had created a bubble of normal reality around itself, a pocket where physics worked and existence was possible. They were alive. They were trapped. They were the only real things left in a dead universe. How long can we survive here? Reeves asked. Dr. Okonkwo checked her instruments. The anchor was drawing power from the ship's core. Years, maybe decades. The anchor will keep this space habitable as long as we maintain it. We're in a pocket of reality surrounded by nothing, Park said. We're trapped in a dead universe. This is either the worst outcome or the most metal thing ever. Both, Kira said. She was laughing and crying at the same time. We're alive. We succeeded. And we're completely screwed. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up long-range scans. Not completely. There are other Voidborn out here. Survivors who didn't make it through the rift. They're not hostile anymore, they're just trying to exist. And with this anchor, we've created a place where existence is possible. So we're building a new civilization, Reeves said slowly. Humans, aliens, and Voidborn, in a dead universe, using spite and hope to create life where there shouldn't be any. That's the most humanity thing I've ever heard, Park said. They set to work. They had a choice. They could despair at being trapped, or they could do what humanity had always done. They could build. They could create. They could tell the universe that just because it said they shouldn't exist didn't mean they would stop existing. They expanded the anchor's range. They found the surviving Voidborn and brought them into the bubble of reality. They made gardens in the observation decks. Dr. Okonkwo started teaching the Voidborn quantum physics. Park started a band with some alien musicians. Kira documented everything, sending updates through quantum entanglement to her uncle in the other universe. 10 years passed. The settlement around the anchor grew. Children were born, human, alien, and surprisingly Voidborn hybrids. Life found a way even in a dead universe. On the 10th anniversary of the sealing, they gathered at the anchor to commemorate their achievement. Captain Reeves, older now with gray in his hair, Dr. Okonkwo, who had married a void-born engineer in a ceremony that made no sense but felt right. Ambassador Kira, who wrote histories that quantum entangled to the other side so the galaxy would remember. We held the line, Reeves said simply, and we're still holding it. In the normal universe, Earth built a monument, a quantum-entangled structure that existed in both dimensions simultaneously. At the dedication ceremony, General Chen spoke to the galaxy about courage and sacrifice. They're not dead, he said. They're doing what humans have always done. They're surviving against impossible odds. They're building where nothing should exist. They're proving that hope is real and that spite can change reality. A young human child asked their parent, "Are the people in the dead universe okay?" The parent smiled. Yes, they're better than okay. They're human. And humans don't give up. At that moment in both universes, the monuments pulsed with light, a signal, transmitted through quantum entanglement across dimensional boundaries, a heartbeat, a message. Simple words that meant everything. Still here, still fighting, still holding the line. And in the dead universe, surrounded by nothing, a pocket of reality blazed with life and laughter and defiant joy. The Unmaker prowled the edges but could not enter. The laws of physics held because humans refused to let them break. Existence continued because 7,000 volunteers had decided that impossible was just another word for difficult. They had held the line, and they would hold it forever if necessary, because that's what humanity did. When the universe said no, humanity said, "Watch us." When death came calling, humanity laughed. When the impossible loomed, humanity punched it in the throat and made it apologize. Millions had died. Hope had fallen. The galaxy had despaired. And then they asked humanity for help. And humanity had answered, "Sure, we'll save you. But we're doing it our way." And they had.